Let's talk about warus now that we're just talking. Potatoes in the country. Potato is the second most important food crop in Kenya.
Did you say waru or kawaru?
Waru.
Okay.
Not kiwaru. It's waru. All right?
Right.
Different.
Kiwaru is basically when you're feeling. What's that? The word that I was asking the other day. Envy and jealousy.
The one which has a green color.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, okay.
When you feel it right here.
Oh, in
Feel
your
it
throat.
right here in your throat. And you're just wondering. Swallow it.
That one.
Like a hot potato. All right. Second most important food crop in Kenya. It's grown by almost 1 million smallholder farmers in the country, about 800,000. It's grown in close to 160,000 hectares of large, small, medium farms in the country. About 2.9 million tons of potatoes are grown in the country every year. About 50 billion shillings worth of potatoes are grown and consumed in the country every year. Okay? Now, what has happened for a very long time is the issue of the farmer growing potatoes, the issue of the farmer getting that potato produce to market, and then market where the consumer goes and gets. For a long time, those who represent farmers have been arguing that the farmer then is left with a short end of the stick, because farmer sells at the farm, and for most of the time, the person who comes to buy at the farm is a broker. Broker decides, so this is the sack. Add another sack. Becomes like a double sack of potatoes, and they determine the price. Comes to the market. Market also determines the price. So the person who's ended up basically growing the potato does not end up getting the most value out of the work that they've put in. Argument number one, enter law. Enter law that comes and says only a 50 kg bag of potato is what gets into the market. This is a thing of adding a kakofia, and a kakofia becomes 2 bags, forget it. Regulations are gazetted in 2019. Those regulations now start looking at who is growing the potato, who is trading in the potato, who is warehousing the potato, who is selling the potato, all the way. They started now bringing the issue of implementation of these regulations this month, and there was a lot of hue and cry and a lot of people not understanding what are you talking about. So you're saying that I need to be registered to farm potatoes. You're saying that I need to be registered to be a trader in potatoes. I need to be registered in order for potatoes to come and sit in my store as a warehouse. What are you talking about? Is this not the government just coming to try and control people and how they do things and just trying to kill a thriving business like others have happened?
What is the rationale with the regulation? I think, what is the rationale behind the regulation?
That will be the
So we'll
interesting
think
bit.
about- Yeah.
Is the regulations, are they coming to enforce the law? Basically, are they coming to operationalize the law that was put in place? Was that law looking to benefit everybody in the value chain? Does this implementation of the regulations benefit everybody in the value chain? Let's start with the farmer and let's end with the consumer. If the consumer is getting value out of these regulations, remember the other day we were talking about potatoes coming from Egypt because some of these stores are arguing they don't have consistent supply of quality potato.
Yeah.
So if the consumer is guaranteed of consistent supply of quality potato, if the farmer is guaranteed of consistent market at good prices, if the trader is guaranteed of making a return, okay. If they're not, issues coming. So let's bring in a guest to help us have this conversation. Joining us on the line is Mr. Wachira Kaguongo. Wachira is the CEO of the National Potato Council of Kenya. Did you know something like that existed?
No, but I do know now.
The National Potato Council of Kenya.
Yes.
Wachira, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much for joining
you.
us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you, Blair.
So first, tell us about this National Potato Council of Kenya. What is it? What do you do?
National Potato Council of Kenya is a PPP organization. That means public-private partnership. It brings all the stakeholders, actors, players in potato industry together to work together from public, that is from government, national government and county government, and institutions such as CARO, KEFIS, AFA, KEBS are all members. And then it brings farmers, traders, processors, chemical companies, and others, all the players together. It was formed to transform the industry. As you said at the beginning, potato is the second most important, but for many years it had not been given attention it deserves, like maize, in terms of policy, institutional, and budgetary support. Even development partners were not supporting it that much. So there was a need to do advocacy and support members and create a point of reference or where people can meet and discuss and plan for the industry. And that is why it was created, to bring all the actors together and organize the industry generally, so that activities that are taking place everywhere, they are coordinated and they are documented and they are guided. And this is what has been happening. And we develop national strategy together with the members, and also cascaded to the county government. So each of the potato producing counties are in the process of producing their own strategies to guide. So generally, it is policy to guide, to help in forming policy, to help in supporting members, provide services that are required. And this is how we came to lobby for the regulations to be implemented after farmers have been exploited for a long time. So in short, that's what you say Potato Council is.
I'm very interested in understanding what the exploitation that you just mentioned entailed. When we talk about exploitation of farmers, exactly what have farmers been suffering, potato farmers been suffering in the recent past? And coming off of that, do we see further exploitation by the regulations then that are being introduced currently?
The summary provided earlier, we saw that the potato industry produced over 50 billion Kenya shillings to the GDP every year. Now, this is very little compared to what it can provide. And then, unfortunately, very little of that money reaches the farmer. The farmer will work on the crop for 4 months, buy seeds, which is very expensive, buy inputs, and then do all the management practices. And then the trader comes for 5-10 minutes in the farm, and then they give their prices. And then when they're giving those prices per bag, they pack the bag they used to pack from 100 to 260 kilograms of one bag. And since you don't know how much of that is in that bag, then they just offer you a price per bag. And the quantity is so much, it's not weighed. You don't know how much. And this varies from one farmer to another farmer. It varies from one county to another county. And it varies from one season to another. So that's what we are talking about, exploitation. Farmers are selling what they don't know, the quantities they don't know. And even when we look at the statistics and data, when we say we produce 2 million or 3 million, it's very, very difficult to know how much is harvested in the country, and even for planning. So it's a bit exploitative to farmers and also discouraging, because the low production, you find that in Kenya, the production is less than 10 tons per hectare. When you compare to Egypt and South Africa and European countries, where we have over 35 tons per hectare. And this is because even the farmers are not able to buy seed, they are not able to buy the proper fertilizer and inputs, and also take care, because they are getting very little money. So this is where exploitation is, and discouraging to the farmer to invest more in producing, because potato production should be like any other business, like any farming. Farming is a business, and therefore farmers should be given their due value of their work.
Was exploitation also taking place from the other players in the value chain? For example, the agrochemical and the inputs companies Have you looked at that? How much are they pricing their inputs at? Then also let's look at, are these traders coming then to exploit the consumer on the market end?
First, even the consumer doesn't get the right quality, because you buy a bag, and then when you open the bag, you find a lot of it is dirt. A lot of the potatoes are cut, others are rotten, and even the processors. That's why the processing industry has not been able to grow. The earlier speaker talked about importing potato from Egypt and others, because the processors are not able to get good quality. And this means we are denying our farmers a niche market. This is part of it. Now, input providers, we are working with them. We are making sure that first, farmers are getting the right input. For example, for many years, we didn't have potato-specific fertilizers. We used to find farmers were using DAP meant for maize and other crops to use in potatoes. But for now, we have several companies that have specialized, and we are working with them. They are producing potato-specific fertilizers and also chemicals. Farmers didn't know the exact chemicals. We are following them, and we even follow the efficacy, how they are working. We are actually doing some studies right now to find out whether we have a problem with one or two of the chemicals, because farmers are complaining that they are not working very well. So yes, we work with them and make sure that input companies don't exploit, and they provide the correct input. And this is how the industry can grow, by getting making sure that whatever is being used in the industry is correct and is meant to help the crop grow very well. Because at the end of the day, it is the yield. How much does the farmer get per unit area, and how much does he spend, so that we get net profit. So that we are doing and working with the farmer. And more importantly, to help them even reduce the cost of procurement and reduce transaction cost, we are working with the industry, those input companies and others, to make sure that, and farmers of course, to make sure that procurement, the transaction cost goes down, in the sense that farmers are able to buy in bulk. We are connecting them directly to the input providers. So they order. We have a digital platform called the so-called digital platform, which farmers can download from the internet or even from Play Store, and then register, and they can order seed. For example, last season we helped the farmers procure seed from very far, and we would consolidate their orders and deliver to where they are. So yes, we are working with the farmers to help them, and also input providers and everybody in the industry, including the regulators. That's how those regulations have been developed, and they are being implemented by committees of interagencies and also stakeholders.
I'm looking at a situation where it seems as though farmers are just getting by, being able to make back the money that they have plowed into the business, literally. So you plant and then you sell and then you're done. We talked about, you've just mentioned opening up a sack of potatoes and you find that some are rotten, some have been cut up, you're not getting quality. But then also being provided with a unique situation in the country whereby you have international outlets coming into the country and selling food, right? And looking for the raw material, and a lot of times in form of potatoes. Kenya right now not being able to keep up with the quality and quantity standards that some of these outlets are asking for, which, if you ask me, is a major revenue earner if we want to look at it along those lines. What is it going to take to get the country to the point where potato farmers will be able to plant, or will be able to grow potatoes of the quality and in the quantity that would be required by some of these international outlets?
Thank you. That's a very good question, because it's something we are working on. First, let's appreciate we have different varieties of potatoes. It's not all the potato varieties that can be used for processing or are good for processing. For example, the most popular and predominant variety is Yangi, which is not necessarily good for processing. And in the recent past, KFIS has registered a good number of new varieties that are good for processing. And what we are doing is informing farmers about this and supporting them for what we call contract farming, and then linking them to the processors and market outlets that prefer those varieties. So we are training farmers on that. Yes, that market, that niche market of the franchise that are opening in the country are very good for our industry, and that's why we are trying to work with them in one way or another, and ensure that we have the varieties that are good for processing, and also farmers know how to grow them, because different varieties require different treatment or activities for them to grow. So we are supporting farmers so that they are able to reach this market of processing, and yes, that market is very, very unique. And recently, I don't know whether you know, the government introduced some taxes for imports of that of those raw material, that is ready cut chips. This is an opportunity for farmers now to match and produce the quality that is required. And that quality can only be done by training. And this is where we are encouraging those companies that have been importing to partner with us so that we support farmers in contract farming so that they are able to provide this raw material for them continuously from January to December, so that we have a win-win situation, so that the franchise companies can buy at a lower price. Of course, when they import, it's a lot of money. They pay a lot. But if they are able to introduce those varieties, because sometimes they have recommended varieties by their franchise company, they just need to introduce those varieties in the country, and then we support them in the introduction and adoption by farmers, and then it will be very good for the industry, so that we stop importing or we reduce importation.
Mr. Wachira, the plans are excellent. They're music to the ears of would-be farmers like myself. But what time span, what time period do you think that all these wonderful plans can actually become a reality in the country?
We are looking at 2 years now, because the things we are doing today, they are quite good. There are a lot of there's a lot of impact happening in a very short time, and there's so many people working in the industry of late. So things are happening in potato industry, and I would expect it in the next 2 years, because the other thing that has happened is that potato has been allowed to join the warehouse receipting system, and therefore it will be another way of marketing for the farmers. It was also accepted in national food strategic reserves, just like maize. So all these are opportunities for farmers, and we are going to support them to get these markets. And this is what I'm saying in the next two years, because we are already meeting with the AFA on Warehouse Receiving System Council, which is coming up with the guidelines, stakeholders to work on that. And it will be achievable in the next 2 years. That's my estimation. Thank you.
Wachira, now enter then these regulations. And there's been a lot of information going around in social media and other platforms where people don't seem to understand what exactly these regulations seek to do. They're saying you want to register farmers and traders and everybody else who's dealing with potatoes in the entire value chain. What's the benefit of that? But what are these regulations exactly? Just giving us like the highlights of that, and then how it impacts everybody in the chain.
Thank you. Now, actually what we have been talking about are all challenges and handles and skewed information and all this. And the regulations are supposed to come and cure that. They are supposed to help cure those challenges. For example, the quality of potato in the market, how you market, how you transport, how you pack. All these are supposed to be addressing the challenges we have talked about, and more importantly, the farmer income, to make sure the potato production is profitable. You have seen for many years what has happened to coffee until farmers have abandoned coffee production, tea the same, and all these. So we are trying to protect and to make sure potato is profitable, so that there is no distortion, there is no exploitation from any angle, so that farmers can actually produce potato profitably. Now, what the regulations have been doing, and it's important to know that it is something that has been pushed for many years. Since 2004, we have been pushing for these regulations. And we are happy that they have gone through. And they are, I would say they are mainly farmer-driven, because they have been asking for them and asking why don't we have fairness in the industry. So the regulations are supposed to look at the production, so that farmers themselves, they produce following some good practices. And this also is important because for many years, again, we as Kenyans have been exposed to poor food that are produced using bad chemicals. We have had cases sometime in one of the counties where farmers were using chemicals in one plot, which for potatoes that will be sold, and they don't use the same chemical in the plot that they are going to use for home use. And this is really like murder. So we are trying to look at such things so that they don't happen. So whatever farmers use for production is what is approved and what is good. So, and then the packaging. The packaging, you find those big bags that have been used, they are bad in quite a number of ways. And the first one is that even the young people who transport them, they have their backbone broken and all this. If you follow the what has been happening, you find that most of them are normally drunk. They normally drink changa and bangi to be able to carry because they are very heavy. And you find one bag being carried by 7 people. So we are actually destroying our people, our young people, and all this. And then you find it's not even gender sensitive.
If I might just ask directly, Wachira.
Yep.
Do these regulations require people to be registered to farm potatoes?
Yes or no. Farmers are not obliged to register. They don't have to register.
Okay.
They have an option of registering or not. But we are encouraging them to register because it's important for the industry, for planning and for intervention and any other. For example, we have what is going on called e-voucher system where there is government subsidy. How can the government plan? How can we plan for the industry if we don't know how many farmers are producing potatoes? And they are also encouraged to register with the farmer association. So what is mandatory to register is farmer association. The farmer association must register. But farmers, no, they don't have to.
Okay.
And the registration is at the county. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. This is a very big conversation, and I think we should open it up at some more and have you again, this time coming into the studio so that we can also hear from farmers themselves, the traders, the processors, and even the consumers on the issue of potato, because this is talking about food security, it's talking about livelihoods of very many people in the value chain.
Sure.
Wachira Kaguongo is the CEO of the National Potato Council of Kenya. We've been talking about what's informed the new potato regulations, and we've heard from him. It's not just a new thing, it's been in the pipeline for a while. Since the law was enacted in 2004, they've been pushing for the regulations. Now the regulations are in effect and they'll be enforced soon. Let's see how it benefits everybody in the value chain.